You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on ELOB, the Locked On Browns podcast. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, Mr. Garrett Bush, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And, make it through your week here on Locked On Browns. Go in tomorrow morning, get a trim at the barbershop, 92.3 The Fan. Garrett Bush will be in the house. We've been talking positional rankings here last few days on Locked On Browns. And again, as we've ascended here to YouTube, please, everybody, make sure you subscribe to that. Over 300 thus far. Please keep that going. I appreciate the support from everybody who's still audio listeners as we begin this new venture. And, of course, everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen. So we decided we're going to go to the cornerback position here today. It was, I think, for Garrett and I, the top three. It went seemingly. And then there was some thought into who is the fourth best cornerback in the AFC. So that's going to make for an interesting, certain debate on that positional group. Like we've done with this one, I'll let Garrett get it started. We'll get his comments. We'll get my comments here. We're going to, later on in the show, we got a few listener questions. We've got our first guest coming in Monday, and we're certainly swinging for the fences with that one. We'll get to all that later in the show. But lead us off here, Mr. Garrett Bush.
Yeah, man. We've been doing this little series, and one thing that when you're doing a series like this, it kind of gives you an exercise in figuring out who's what and who's where. Because one of the things that we do often when we talk about sports is we always say everybody's top five. Oh, that guy over there, he's top five. And then until you start extrapolating and writing their names down, you realize, whoa, that guy may not be in the top five. Everyone says it, but when you put it on paper, it's a little different. So as we were going through the cornerback position, me and you probably had a little eye-opening situation just looking at, man, the AFC North really ain't got corners like that. They got a couple guys here or there, but it's not loaded at this position as we were talking about the edge rushers a couple of days ago.
I'll just jump in real quick. You just saw the addition yesterday with the Eagles. You brought in James Bradbury. This is a team that's already got Demetrius Slay. Those two guys alone would probably be in the top four in the AFC North, and they're on one team. But go ahead, Jay.
Hey, listen, no doubt. Those guys would definitely be on this list. Coming in at number 4, we had a little bit of a conundrum. We didn't want to see my homers here, but we got Greg Newsome coming in at number 4. Your other option for that would be Joe Hayden. But to me, Greg Newsome is definitely a better cornerback at this point in his career than Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden is a guy who he's going to play zone. He's good in zone. He'll get you some be in position and, maybe knock down a couple footballs. But in terms of if you're going to put Joe Hayden on a primetime number 1 receiver and ask him to follow him around the field, that's not his forte. You got to scheme some stuff up for Joe Hayden. Even when Joe Hayden was here in his prime, there was times where that wasn't a thing. Like we were like, oh goodness, Joe Hayden getting picked on today. So he's been with the Steelers a few years, and he had a couple good years ago. Last year, the year before that, getting some interceptions and kind of looked like he went to the fountain of youth. But as far as Greg Newsome is concerned, I thought he played really well last year. I thought for a rookie, he competed. Even when he got beat, he was always in position, either to try to knock the ball down, to go out and high point and intercept the football. And he was just a guy that I felt like had a lot of the raw tools available to him in order to be a top-notch corner. And I believe Greg Newsome is in that top 4, top 5 in the as far as the cornerback rooms is concerned. And I really think he's going to take another step forward this year. And then next year, this whole, when we do it again next year, we won't have the same question marks. Maybe he might be in that top 2 or that top 3 next year.
I think the thing that was most impressive for me about Greg Newsome last year, and it was every week maybe you saw a different facet of the game, whether it was coming up being physical on a receiver, catching a shorter route, coming up and run support. The intelligence of, understanding if he did get beat by somebody on something, he was extremely quick to correct it. It didn't seem to be that there was ever the second commission of the same mistake. Really, really was an intelligent player. Another one was the Cincinnati game when the Browns won in Cincinnati. There was a deep ball. I don't remember if it was Chase or it was Higgins, but it was literally 45, 50-yard route, deep, skinny post down the center of the field. He was stride for stride, perfect, didn't lean in, didn't hold, kept the back shoulder behind, tipped it away. And I mean, look, to be able to cover somebody at that great of a distance, a lot of things can go wrong. Like everybody goes to the Senior Bowl and like, wow, look at that, the one-on-one. He had 975 square feet to work with, and he found but no, that to cover somebody that far down the field and impressive as that, Greg Newsome is going to be a special, special talent. And I think that one thing that some questions people have always had with Denzel Ward has been the fact that, maybe he's a little bit undersized. Okay, well, this makes it for a perfect pairing. Greg Newsome, taller, a little longer, obviously, and, just like Denzel lean, the two of them always need to, go to mama's house, get a little more weight on those bodies.
Get a couple sandwiches and get that home cooking around the holidays. Y'all need it. All you need.
You got to make that like a Friday night affair, boys. Pat, come on before you're ready to go on Sunday. But, I think the sky is the limit for Greg Newsome. No turnovers yet to this point, but you believe that something's coming. Just plays the game really, really athletically. And I love the fact that any mistake he does, make, it doesn't seem like it happens again. And that's been really, really impressive. We're going to move on here. And there is it's interesting because representation, the way it's going to work on this list is, a little heavy here.
A little heavy at the top, right? A little heavy. But see, here's the thing, though. I'm not afraid to do that. One thing I don't like doing is spreading the wealth just for the simple fact of just spreading the wealth. You got to earn your position in the game.
Ain't no participation trophies in
this. No, not over here. So, we talked about this one. Marcus Peters. He was a guy that was injured last year. And I think the Ravens had a lot of injuries. They in their secondary, Gus Edwards hurt, J.K. Dobbins was hurt. Lamar Jackson was hurt. It just seemed like they were just falling apart throughout the season. And it started early in the season during training camp. So, but when he's on the field, Marcus Peters is a really solid, borderline all-pro corner. There's some years he looks like he could be an elite corner. Some years he has takes a few steps back. But in general, I like Marcus Peters. I think he's a guy that can play zone. He can play man. I think he's he has good ball instincts, and he's one of those typical Ravens guys who always seems to play better with Baltimore. But if they go somewhere else, you're like, I don't know if Marcus Peters is that cold. I don't know if he's the man like that. But it just goes to show you if he's coming in at third, the type of corners that are in this division. We haven't heard anything from the Steelers yet. We haven't heard anything from the Bengals yet. So, we'll be anxious to see what those top two positions hold. But I do believe that the AFC is very top heavy when it comes to corners. And I think there's a much better distribution of talent throughout the other positions. Offensive line is a big one. You'll watch when you see that. Offensive line is a big one. Also coming up with quarterback. Quarterback will be one of the most difficult ones we do here, but we'll get into that. What are your thoughts on Marcus Peters?
The thing I've always loved about Marcus Peters, and this is where players can get away with things. Look, if you get beat sometimes, that type of thing, it happens. But are you a guy that can find the ball? And with Marcus Peters' ability, and there would be other guys in camp like, oh, man, I would get chewed out if I did that. Oh, yeah? Well, have you ever had 7 interceptions in a year? You ever taken, 2 pick sixes to the house in the same year? When you gamble and you win sometimes like Marcus Peters does, other things are forgiven. And, and I can't remember the amount of times, and it was with whatever team he was with. And there was always a time where it was a tight game, shootout game, late in the game. And all of a sudden here came the Marcus Peters pick six. You pair him with a player like Marlon Humphrey, who's a strong physical guy in coverage. That allows even more for a guy like Marcus Peters to be, the riverboat gambler type of cornerback that he is. Sometimes it, comes up snake eyes, but sometimes it certainly works out in his favor. Marcus Peters, his playmaking ability, as far as just doing his job, what you get after the fact with the playmaking ability, the play of the ball, just a special, special player. And he certainly deserves merit on this list.
Yeah, just looking at it. Let's talk about his interceptions. Going back to 2015, he spent from 2015 all the way into 2017 with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then he split time between the Rams and Baltimore moving forward. But go back and look at his stats: eight interceptions, 2 touchdowns in 2015. He comes back with 6 picks in 6 picks in 2016. 2017, he still had 5 interceptions, right? He got 3 interceptions in 18, 3 in 19. Actually, I lied to you. He didn't have 3 interceptions in 2019. He had 5.
Because he got traded. Yep.
Yep, he had 5. And you look at it, he also is forcing fumbles. In 2017, forced 3 fumbles. And the touchdowns are there as well. 2017 scored on a touchdown. He scored 3 touchdowns between the LA Rams and the Baltimore Ravens.
I think his first game as a Raven was in Seattle, and he took Russell Wilson for a pick 6.
Yep. So you can see, he's a ball hawk. He's a guy who has production, and he's deserving of that with that type of production on the list.
No question about it. And for me, those corners I love. The technically sound guys, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome. I love watching those guys. But, it's the corner that talks a little bit, and then obviously when he gets his opportunity, makes a play, and then all of a sudden, yeah. Hate to play against you, Marcus Peters, but was, certainly enjoy watching Marcus Peters. As we've been talking about, the fine folks at Built Bar, but we got something special. I love brownies, but you know what I love even more? The brownie batter. Sometimes I eat half the batter before my wife and girls can actually get it in the oven to actually make them into brownies. Imagine if you could lick the brownie spatula clean and get some protein in. You're in luck because Built has a new creation, and this one is better than ever. The Brownie Batter Puff. You heard me right. This puff takes protein bars to a whole new level, and they are available right now on Built.com. Have you tried the Built Puffs yet? I'm not sure what you're waiting for. Puffs are a chocolate-covered marshmallow protein bar. That's right. Delicious flavored marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, and only 7 grams of sugar. Brownie Batter Puffs are the perfect pick-me-up for any day. All Built Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means with Built, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. And they are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. The Brownie Batter Puffs will have you completely forgetting that you're eating a protein bar. No need to pinch yourself. This is real life. Go to Built.com to get Brownie Batter Puffs now. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. We're going to continue here and going through the top 4 cornerbacks in the AFC North. To this point, Greg Newsome at number 4. Number 3, Marcus Peters and his outstanding playmaking ability to be the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to get to some listener questions here. We got a guest we're very, very excited for on Monday, so we're going to let you all know kind of about that. Continuing up here the list, and we told you this was going to be weird the way this fell, and there wasn't basically a lot of tickets around the AFC North, to this top 4 party, so to say. Marlon Humphrey from the Baltimore Ravens comes in at number 2, and you'll get both of our thoughts here. But Garrett, the thing with a player like Marlon Humphrey, it's the physical right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? He's doing everything he can to not even let you get into your pattern. Again, he is another one with the, looking to strip the ball every time he's engaged. Very easily, if you told me in a few years Marlon Humphrey was going to be a full-time safety, it would make a lot of sense, just because that's the way he plays. Very, very intelligent corner. And maybe as he goes to lose a step or two, the Rod Woodson effect, where he went from being a top corner to being a top safety. I can see that with Marlon Humphrey right now.
And another thing, too, Charles Woodson, he reminds me a lot of guys that came into the league. And you're like, okay, he's a natural progression. I even thought he played safety. I thought he played safety because it just seems like what they do, kind of moving him around a lot. He seems to be playing back deep, but I totally agree with you. He's a guy who I think can definitely move to safety and see him do that in the future.
So, he comes in here and it's a different type. He's not the straight coverage guy, does it more with physicality. A lot of times with his size and length, he's bigger than the receivers he's covering. So we talk all the time about, how does so-and-so corner at his size cover a wide receiver? Well, what do you do when you have a corner built like Marlon Humphrey, traditionally a safety, covering 5'10" players? It's hard for them to get off their breaks. He's extremely physical. really intelligent player, always, willing. He's always been really, really diligent, again, about forcing fumbles, trying to force fumbles. Certainly a guy that runs his mouth a lot. So him and Marcus Peters make for a nice tandem in that Ravens secondary. But this, pretty cut and dry, once we got past the Newsome selection, we were pretty sure who were, the top 3 cornerbacks in the AFC, Garrett.
Yeah, I totally knew what it was with Marlon Humphrey. I thought he was a great pick. To be honest with you, he could probably be number 1 on this list.
Different styles than number 1, but yes.
Yeah, he could be, and plus he's coming off an injury, which is a little bit of a serious injury where he missed a lot of time last year. But Marlon Humphrey, I thought could be a number 1 on the list. But we went with the number 1 cornerback overall, Denzel Ward. Obviously, he's coming up. He got the big extension. He's a guy who I thought had a really nice year last year, all-pro year. I think he got back to what we were expecting from Denzel Ward. And I remember when Denzel Ward came out as a rookie, one of the biggest, highlights in my mind was when that game, in the first game of the season, we're playing the Ravens at home, the Steelers at home, and he jumps 2 routes from Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, one of them was just great instincts, being in zone coverage and just reading his eyes and making a play on the football. I don't even think you're supposed to be in that place on the field. When I saw that, I said, man, this guy's instincts are cool. We're going to have one of the, the best in the league. Maybe this is a Revis, Nnamdi Asomugha when in his prime. And then he had a couple of years where it was a little bit left to be desired. He had injuries the next year. We called it team hamstring. Everybody had a hamstring injury. Greg, I remember him and Greg Williams going back and forth. Greg Williams is telling them, if you don't learn how to tackle right, you're going to get hurt. So the injuries have always been kind of a thing for Denzel Ward. It's always been something they're hanging over him. I think last year he bounced back in a major way, and I think that's why the Browns were not apprehensive about giving him that deal. They were able to sign him to a long-term contract, and I think him and Marlon Humphreys played 2 different styles of game. One thing that you can tell with Denzel Ward, because he is that fast, you never really quite see him getting destroyed deep like that. He may give some stuff up underneath, but as far as them beating him over the top with speed, it's kind of hard to do. Denzel is a really legit flyer. And if you look at it, Denzel mixed with Greg Newsome, you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers wire, USA Today wire, it says, they got the Browns coming in as it's second best secondary behind the Baltimore Ravens. So I'll take their word for it. We got your boy Denzel Ward coming in at number 1. Thoughts on Denzel?
And keeping on with that rookie stretch, though, I believe it was week 3 against the Ravens. Blocked the field goal right before halftime. Keep in mind the Browns won that game, in overtime. Then week 4 was the Thursday night game. That was the birth of Baker Mayfield. Denzel Ward had a tremendous strip deep in the Jets. The Jets were inside the 15, 20-yard line. That turned out to be a consequential play in that game. The one thing is, when Denzel is dinged up and can go, or Denzel is out, obviously it hurts this team. There's no way around it. The level of play that you saw this year and the consistency, week 1 against Kansas City was 35 yards down the field. I believe it was Tyreek Hill. You know what? He had the coverage, made the play. Incredible play. The long pick 6 against the Cincinnati Bengals, where Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase at that point were literally just punishing anybody that came up against them. The Browns took some lumps on that drive, obviously, since Cincinnati got down there, but deep Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, who have this incredible relationship with each other. So basically, he fooled the 2 of them into believing they had something that they didn't have. Obviously jumped it, took it to the house, turned the whole momentum of what that game is. I do agree, look, there could be a case here where Humphrey or Peters could be, but we're talking about basically, this is a recency bias type of thing. Who do we think played the best in 2022? Awuzie, maybe from the Bengals, would deserve a mention. It's not really always been, with him a consistency thing, but and part of it was Awuzie was mostly later in the season, postseason. This is maybe the body work of the 2021 season, but I'll say it confidently that Denzel Ward is the best cornerback in the AFC North. He was paid handsomely because he is the best cornerback in the AFC North. It's something I'm more than comfortable with. Denzel Ward's a hell of a player. I think the Browns, to get this deal done, whatever you think of the contract, it was consequential because you know what you have at one. And this obviously gave you the flexibility to say, we can bring in another young guy who's cheaper because we know what Denzel's going to do for us. Once you can do things like that, Myles Garrett here, Denzel Ward here, it may look like there are some holes there, but those guys and what they're capable of, it makes it a lot easier to say, all right, well, he can do these things if I want to do it this way because Denzel will do that. But this guy's good at this, so we'll just have Denzel do what he's not good. There's just so many things you can do with Denzel Ward. He plays well close to the line of scrimmage. Obviously, he can get downfield and long coverage. It's just a special talent at this point in his career.
Totally agree. I think it's going to be a great season. I'm anxious to see, the secondary and how they gel together overall with the Cleveland Browns. And we haven't even got to the safeties here yet. So we'll be looking at those safety positions later on down the line. So make sure you keep it locked so you can catch all of our position by position breakdowns here on the Locked On Browns podcast.
Yeah, we've just been kind of keeping these, like loose, what I'm saying? Most of the time it's like maybe something came up within the AFC North news-wise, so we're like, that position, why don't we go that, just seems if everybody else is talking about it, just something else to keep the, your talks and thoughts flowing here. We're going to get a couple listener questions. We've got a fun guest I'm excited to come in on Sunday. Your host, Garrett Bush, Jeff Lloyd, along for your ride on the daily podcast on Locked On for your Cleveland Browns fans, the Locked On Browns podcast. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Oh, welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. Make sure you check us out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Jeff Lloyd, G. Bush in the building. And guess what, guys? Right now, you may think, all right, well, what does this podcast hold? What are they coming up to do? What things do we got in their sleeve? We encourage you to subscribe right now because right now it's the off season. Get into the swing of things, get into that routine and checking us out every day, because when the season hits, when training camp is going to hit, we're going to have an opportunity to bring in you exclusive stuff. We already got some, I guess, coming up Monday we'll tell you about, but we're efforting some of the top names in the game to bring you that during the season. So right now, everywhere around the internet, it's one of those down cycles during the season where, it's not, the draft is over, mini camps haven't started yet, two-a-days isn't here yet. But make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these great interviews, this great content when the season starts. And this is your place for Browns content, Browns everything, Locked On Browns podcast. Make sure you subscribe.
Look, with part of it, with everybody, look, it's cabin fever time of the year, man. It's 70, it's 70 degrees, shorts, t-shirts are starting to be the norm. Make sure you get some color though, man, before you start throwing those shorts on, the pasty white legs, man. At least get away a little burn first, people. You're killing me with this. But no, look, it's this time of year. And look, obviously, we start to get to go outside, celebrate more, hang with family again. Hopefully, we keep trending on that course. Of course. So, we understand. But look, we're going to come out guns a-blazing. I guess, actually, we'll just go to it here before we get to a couple listener questions. She's been making the rounds, obviously, articles through clevelandbrowns.com. I know she's already been on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Yep.
So, Garrett, we're excited. Go ahead.
We had her on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I talked to her yesterday on set. Aditi Kinkabala, she is one of the best to do it. She is formerly of the NFL Network. She's known all throughout the ranks as a person who covers the AFC North, not just the Cleveland Browns, done it for years. We are going to have her coming up here on the podcast. I believe that's Monday, right?
That will be Monday. Looking very much forward to it.
Yes, we will have her on Monday. She's confirmed, so she'll be in the building. Looking forward to talk to her. And I think she's such a cool individual because She's just, she's really down to earth. She's a woman who really knows her game. See, there's a lot of misconceptions out there that, women in the marketplace don't have the bandwidth, or they don't really know and digest the game the same way men do. That's completely erroneous. She came on an Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I think we had our highest ratings, our highest views when she was on. And we've had Maurice Clarett on. We've had Joe Thomas. We had Leroy Horde. We've had The Miz. We've had Tim Couch. The names of all names we've had on. Our show yesterday had the highest views. So, that just shows you what she brings to the table. We're going to be totally pumped to have her on the Locked On Browns podcast coming up Monday. And like we said, that's not the last time. We're going to still effort other people, whether that be players, whether that be people in the media, whether that be personalities. We're going to have that here for you, exclusive content. So make sure you get in here, subscribe to that channel, and subscribe to the podcast as well.
Yeah, no, and greatly appreciate it. And, the thing I'm excited, and indeed has just been somebody I've admired work over the years, and it's the personality while doing it. It's one thing, and look, we've seen, you would maybe know the names to put to where it's, media members who are, at a certain point doing it because they're getting paid to doing it, as opposed to doing it because they truly love it. And that's the difference with someone like her. She, could not be more thankful for the job she has, and she wears that on her heart, and she just loves what she's doing. So, I'm thrilled that we should have some fun with that one. We'll get to a listener question or two here before we close this out. Friday, Locked On Browns, first week in the books on YouTube. So we're going to go. All right. This is going to be the last Deshaun Watson speaking of this week, and hopefully for next week. All right. Garrett Bush, if Watson is suspended for 6 games, what's the Browns' record when he comes in week 7? What do you think the record would be after 6 weeks if no suspension comes out this year? Oh, okay, that's interesting. So now, look, we've talked about this a ton. The first 4 games, we feel very strongly winnable games. Carolina, the Atlanta's in there, the Jets, obviously Pittsburgh Steelers. 2 games after that is when you get to the Chargers and the Patriots. Basically, the old rest of business is about to pick up. That's when business is about to pick up. Week 5 and 6, Chargers, Patriots. So if you're thinking if it is no Deshaun Watson first, Garrett, and then if there was Deshaun Watson, what would the record be after those 6 games?
I would say after 6 games, you should be 4-2, 5-1. 4-2 or 5-1 if he's not suspended. That's where I'm looking at. The first 4 weeks are, the schedule people did us some justice here, because we've been talking 4 to 6 games, maybe 8 games or whatever the case may be. You look at those teams, all those teams in the first 4 have no solidified quarterback. And when you don't have a solidified quarterback, one of the things that you're going to be looking to do in the first 4 weeks is trying to find some sort of identity. What do you do best? Where can you manufacture some points? If Deshaun Watson is not suspended, that means he's gone through the whole offseason. That means he's gone through training camp, and that means he's gotten a lot of reps. So I believe if he's here and he's ready to go, no suspension, 4-2 at the worst, 5-1 is more what I'm expecting.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say, I think maybe those first 4 games should be winnable with either quarterback, even if Jacoby Brissett is playing. Look, I mean, you understand there could be a slip up because he is another number 2 quarterback in the NFL for a reason. So, you're not going to expect him to come out and go guns a-blazing by any means whatsoever. So there could be a slip. The Chargers, Patriots are difficult. I mean, the Browns have made changes. The Chargers have made changes. If you think about it in the grand scheme of things, if that game had gone on later in the season, the Browns lit up the Chargers that day offensively. That was one game where nobody was speaking ill of Baker Mayfield's play. But if the Browns defense had played in that game like they were playing late in the season, that would have easily been a Browns victory. There's no question about it. So, which team now with more improvement has, made themselves even better than they were. So it makes for interesting. New England's always a tough one. But look, did go to the playoffs last year. A lot of people picked on him for the Mac Jones signing. And it seemed to work out, obviously, as they went to the playoffs last year. So those games are going to be difficult. This Browns team last year got killed by the Patriots. Would it be different? Obviously, this time around, new quarterback, obviously, a lot of other new faces. So I think if it is Jacoby Brissett, and you make it through those four with W's, I think you're losing both those games. If it's Deshaun Watson, the expectation would be is you're going to win one of those games. So after those 6, I think 5-1 is certainly something that would be, not surprising to anybody in the least.
Yeah, no doubt. And just kind of throw a bow in this really quickly. With Jacoby Brissett, I still would expect him to go at least 4-2, and or worst case scenario 3-3. That's what I'm looking. You still got a run game, still got a good offensive line. That's what will be my expectations if he was suspended 6 games.
I couldn't agree more. But folks, it's Friday. We're going to start putting this on ice, so to speak. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Of course, weather's starting to be more and more favorable. So go out, do what you love to do. As far as more and more now opening things and getting back to what we were all been waiting for 2 years. So enjoy and live up every damn second of it. Appreciate you all for making Locked On Browns your first listen as we've made this transition this week to YouTube. The growth of the show with Garrett now being a part full-time here as host and joining me. We've had a lot of fun. I'm sure there's some kinks that still got to get worked out. No messing around. We understand. Garrett, obviously a ton going on here now. So I'm sure you guys are checking out the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. If you're not, stay with that. It's a nice, relaxed, there's great sports talk, but a lot of more relaxed kind of fun to it. So it's been great to watch the growth and development of that. Saturday morning, tomorrow, jump on in there, go get you trimmed, get all right for the weekend. As Garrett Bush will be in the house at the barbershop, 92.3 The Fan. Wherever you get your podcast, make sure you're following, subscribe to the Locked On Browns podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings, written reviews. YouTube, let's keep them subscriptions coming for me, folks. I don't ever hound you about much, but I'm going to beat you up on this one here so we can get those numbers up here over the next couple of weeks. He is your host, Garrett Bush. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd, at GBush91, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. This has been your daily delivery of all things dog pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.